Let's be honest, the church doesn't always have the best track record. From judgmental people, scandals, and so much more, I get why you're asking how church could be a good place. Sometimes it feels fake, sometimes it feels boring, other times you get hurt. But I hope what I share today might help you reconsider going to church, or show you the importance of it. Stick around because we're going to talk about why it matters and why it's still worth it. Before we dig in, my name's Rylee, and this channel exists to help you understand your faith and share it. We dig into real questions like this every week, so if you want more of that, consider liking and subscribing. Today, I'll use the word church interchangeably with the church, the building, and the church, the group of people, so keep that in mind as we continue. A lot of us have experienced hypocrisy, drama, leadership failure, and so much more in our churches. But let me assure you, this is nothing new. It's the product of people being together. Even the early church had issues. Paul was writing letters left and right to churches who were chaotic and divided. The good news is, the reason they were getting a letter was because it wasn't supposed to be that way. The church has always been messy, but that's because it's full of people that are messed up and broken. Sadly, because we don't have the culture to express that, which explains why we're called hypocrites often, it ends up getting hidden and exposed after the fact. Jesus knew that we would fail each other, but he still built the church anyway, because he knew we needed it. We must remember that it was God's idea for the church, not our own. If you think that you can do church at home or you don't need a building to be close to God, I would tell you that's all good and true. However, the importance isn't in the building. It's about the body of believers. Scripture is clear that gathering is a part of the Christian life. You can't live well without it. Hebrews 10:24 through 25 says, "And let us consider how to stir up one another to love and good works, not neglecting to meet together, as is the habit of some, but encouraging one another." In other words, it's a command to meet, not just to consume, but to encourage and grow together. I know personally, I love meeting at church. In fact, on the weeks we meet more than once, I notice myself being more excited. It doesn't mean that there's not issues, trust me, I've seen them, but it doesn't change God's goal, that others are uplifted in the command to meet together. Now, for those of you that say, "I just need a break," or "I'll just watch online," I have to beg the question, did God tell you that? Satan thrives on isolation. If he can make you feel like you're the only one that struggles, keeping you from opening up and receiving freedom, he's got you in the bag. In a similar way, if you isolate yourself from believers, he can do the same thing. Those statements may make you feel safe at first, but you're close to drifting off. I call that backsliding, and it's definitely possible. Again, I've seen it. I could tell you countless stories of folks who were consistent and then fell off the horse because of comments just like these. Proverbs 18:1 tells us, "Whoever isolates himself seeks his own desire. He breaks out against all sound judgment." Being alone keeps us from the very thing Christ desired: accountability and encouragement. The church, although it doesn't always act in this way, is supposed to be a place of vulnerability. That word gets such a bad rap, but we're supposed to share our struggles and find strength in one another. Sharing our struggles doesn't keep us from desiring holiness. Instead, it breaks the chains of sin and shame. Using our spiritual gifts, encouraging and bearing one another's burdens are all things God has designed for the church to do. And you can't participate in that unless you're meeting with other Christians. In other words, at church or some other location. Now, just because the church was supposed to be like this doesn't mean they're doing a great job. Chances are, if you look hard enough in every church, there's going to be some issues. However, this can't be your excuse to staying out of church. While you should definitely be looking out for red flags and major issues, sometimes you're going to have to get over your personal preference and make it work. This doesn't mean participate in something that's clearly wrong. Instead, I'm talking about getting over your opinions and serving anyway. There's going to have to come a point where you eventually have to trust again and let the churches you try have another chance. Here's what I would look for in a church. Number 1, biblical teaching. Number 2, leadership that's humble, qualified, and accountable. Number 3, real community. Number 4, clear love for Jesus and the gospel. There's many important things to look for in a church. I actually talk about them in another video you can find in the link in the description below. And if you find something you don't like, get over it. The church was never made to fit your opinion. There's a clear difference between sin and style. With that being said, try a few out and pick which seems to have the best culture. Aside from those important things above, I believe you can also pick out a church based on you. Let me explain. If you're a young single person, find a church with others in your walk of life. If you're a family with kids, find a church that has lots of families. Jesus built the church to do life together, and while you can always get something out of other generations, finding people like you to build relationships with and encourage is important. Jesus doesn't quit on his church. and neither should we. He's observing, caring, correcting, and encouraging the church constantly. He even calls the church his bride. Flaws and all, Jesus picked his church, the group of people who love him, to be his bride. This doesn't mean that everyone in the group gets to go, but we can trust that there are people who are living a godly life somewhere in a church where you need to be. So maybe you've been hurt. Maybe you're scared of what's there. Either way, you must put yourself out there. Yes, it's going to be intimidating, but I promise, somewhere near you are people who are ready to love you right where you're at. So don't be quick to blow a church off. Sometimes building what you want takes time. It may take a while to find the right group, but soon it will come. Here's some next steps. Pray for direction. Ask God if there's any specific churches He has in mind, and listen. Even if you don't feel He's answered, take a leap of faith and visit a few churches. Make sure they have all the things we talked about above. Don't rush, but don't stall either. When you find one that's biblical and healthy, commit, serve, grow, and show up. You'll never find the perfect church, but you can find one where you can grow, be challenged, and belong. Now, I believe in meeting up in person for your church, but throughout the week, you might have some questions or need encouragement. So I would love it if you would consider joining our community by hitting the subscribe button below. I know it's not the church, but we hope we can help you on your walk towards God. Well, that's it for me here. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one.